All right, guys, so look at 2-4. I was like, I haven't even posted the video yet. Like, I'm recording it.
Mr. Matthews' video posted to Blackboard. It's like, watch this for extra practice.
This is like extra practice with new content.
Yeah, this is new. All right, you guys are going to try to come up with the formulas for sine, cosine, and tangent here. So, sine of 2 theta, that's like sine of theta plus theta, right? Isn't that 2 theta? So you're going to use your sum formulas to figure these out, okay? So you start. That's funny. Hopefully it all makes sense to you today. Sometimes the videos, if it's not actually in class, are harder to control. So you're good now? Now that I wrote that, you're good? How are we doing with our sine formula, guys? Guys, let's go through it together just to make sure you've got the right formula written down, because that would be not helpful if you wrote the wrong things. So with our sum formula, what is sine of theta plus theta going to be?
Sine theta plus theta plus sine theta. Or sine theta.
Yeah, and we usually wrote the other one in this order, but it really doesn't matter. Isn't that just 2 of the same thing? So there is your first double angle formula. Okay, so let's look at our cosine one. So that would be cosine theta minus sine theta, right? So that's just cosine squared theta minus sine squared theta. That is one of them. We can have 2 others of this one. Yes. What could we say cosine squared is equal to? Like, what do we know? Yes, 1 minus sine squared, right? So I could also do 1 minus sine squared theta minus sine squared theta, which is 1 minus 2 2 sine squared theta. So that's a second cosine double angle formula. You with me? How do you think I might find the third one? Right, yeah, instead of sine squared theta, what could I put? Okay, make sure you're careful with your negatives. So what do we actually get when we simplify that? How about 2 cosine squared? Okay. Okay. Are you guys okay with the 3 cosine double angles? That makes sense where they're all coming from? So then let's look at our tangent. What would I write for my tangent formula? Theta plus theta. Tangent theta plus tangent theta over 1 minus tangent theta times tangent theta. So how about 2 tangent theta over 1 minus tangent squared theta? Okay. More formulas for you to know and love. Okay? All right. So let's look at the examples here. You're given sine of theta equals 8 over 17, and I tell you pi over 2 is less than theta is less than pi. So which quadrant am I drawing my picture in? The second, yes. For dose. All right, there's my theta. Sine is 8 over 17, so that means opposite is 8, hypotenuse is 17. This is actually another common right triangle. Does anybody know what the other side is? It's 15. Would it be positive or negative? Negative. All right, so let's actually do the sine of 2 theta first. So sine of 2 theta, we know our formula is 2 sine theta cosine theta. So for this problem, that's going to be 2 times 8 over 17 times negative 15 over 17. Where your 2 is over 1. So again, you don't have a calculator for this, so with multiplying, you can make it easier on yourself by the order in which you multiply it in. 2 times 8 is 16, and 16 times 15, that kind of makes you think a little bit. But what if I did 2 times the 15 first? Because that's just 30. And then what's 30 times 8? It's negative 240. Over, you guys know 17 squared? 289, good. And that doesn't reduce because 289, the only number is higher than 17. So nothing else will work. So that is your answer for sine of 2 theta. Okay. Cosine of 2 theta, you can pick whichever formula you want. I do not care. So which one do you guys want to use? I heard first one, so let's do that. Cosine squared. It doesn't matter, but we have to pick one. So if you want to do a different one, you do a different one and see if we get the same answer, okay? I'm doing cosine squared minus sine squared. So for me, that's negative 15 over 17 squared minus 2 over 17. like 161. Okay. So again, no matter which formula you pick, you should have ended up with 161 over 289. Okay? All right, so are those too terrible to use?
No.
Not too bad, right? Okay. We have half angle identities left. These are the last formulas. I think these are the hardest to remember, and the questions are the trickiest of these. So we've saved the best for last for you, okay? It's not a happy face.
I need a lot of practice.
I'm warning you, I'm not saying it's easy. All right, so your formula for sine of theta over 2 starts out with a plus or minus in front.
Plus or minus?
Good times. Big square root.
How do we know if it's plus or minus?
You have to determine whether it is positive or negative. That's why they're the hardest ones. Because you have to think about what quadrant you're in, what quadrant theta over 2 is in, and that's
It's a 50-50 chance here, right?
I think there's more barriers than
plus or minus the square root of 1 minus cosine of theta over 2.
That's easy.
so much.
All right, then for cosine theta over 2, it is also plus or minus big square root. This time it's 1 plus cosine of theta over 2. I know. All right, then tangent. I remember tangent because it's kind of like, you know, it's sine over cosine. So this one is plus or minus big square root 1 minus cosine theta over 1 plus cosine theta. You have other options for the tangent of theta over 2, okay? We also have sine of theta over 1 plus cosine theta. No square root in that one. Or 1 minus cosine theta over sine of theta. Okay? No, no square roots, no plus or minus. Those, they work themselves out for you. For which one? For the last one? For this one, yeah. This one you can't split those. All right, so we got the formulas? Okay.
One of proof that we get sine over 1 plus cosine, we can change it to 1 minus cosine over sine.
Yeah. No, the more you know. All right. Yes, some formulas. We okay? Sort of okay? Hanging by a thread, okay?
If you don't know it,
All right, let's just do the tiles.
No, we gotta practice. I gotta show you some examples. Yeah.
Versatiles.
that's what they are. I thought it said like versatile.
Oh, no, versatile. I don't think I wrote it very well, but yes. All right, guys, turn the page in your notes. We got a few examples to get through first. Examples, not too many. Okay. First one we're going to do here is the sine of 7 pi over 8. So, 7 pi over 8 here, that is my theta over 2. Okay? Where is 7 pi over 8? The second quadrant. Looks like it's the truth where it's like right there, right? So, is sine positive or negative in the second quadrant? Positive. So, we are going to pick the positive of our formula. So, all this does for us right here, cells of Now you'll notice in the formula, it doesn't say cosine of theta over 2, it says cosine of theta, right? Okay, theta over 2 is 7 pi over 8. We need to actually find theta. So, do that as a little intermediate step. So what does theta actually equal? Yes. Okay, that is what gets used in your formula. And is that something you know from your unit circles?
Yeah.
Yes. If you go through one of these problems and you end up with a theta that is like 3 pi over 16, you messed up somewhere, okay? It will always be something you actually know from your unit circle. Okay, so back to our formula then. We know it's positive. We have 1 minus the cosine of 7 pi over 4 all over 2. And I'm just going to go sideways because I'm running out of room. Well, what is the cosine of 7 pi over 4? Root 2 over 2. Not negative. You're in the fourth quadrant, right? Which cosine is...
I thought it was a third quadrant.
Oh, it's tricky. So it ends up being 1 minus root 2 over 2 all over 2. So if you think about your common denominators, I can turn that 1 into 2 over 2, right? So I really have 2 minus root 2 all over 2. And then divided by 2, what is that the same as multiplying by? So 1/2. Are you with me on that? See, we're okay, we're here. Okay. So big square root 2 minus root 2 all over 4. But can I take the square root of 4? Yes. So your final answer is the positive square root of 2 minus root 2 all over 2, because you've taken the square root. That is your good times, right? Yeah, it doesn't feel right, I know, but it's okay. Questions, guys?
We can do another one.
How do I know it's positive? So that's the very first thing you're going to decide. Okay? This 7 pi over 8, that is my theta over 2. So I'm figuring out where that is. So 7 pi over 8 is in the second quadrant. It's the sign in the second quadrant, so I know it's positive. And that's why you pick positive. Then you use that to find theta, and then you're done with this whole 7 pi over 8. Okay? All right. Questions? Jordan? Yeah. What's the square root of 4? That's all I did.
Oh.
Now the square root is only in the numerator. Here it was over both. Yes, that was the last step. That's it. Yes. From here to here or here to here? This one to this one? I turned 1 into 2 over 2. So that gave me 2 minus root 2 all over 2. That's this. Dividing by 2 is the same as multiplying by 1/2. Sure? Okay, that's all. Then I just multiply. Okay. All right. Let's do it again. Now we're doing the cosine of 7 pi over 8. All right. So we've done some of the work already. Where is 7 pi over 8? Second quadrant. Is cosine this time positive or negative in the second quadrant? Negative, right? Everybody understanding why I'm putting the negative outside of the square root?
Yes.
No, please ask me after lunch. All right, have a good lunch. All right, guys, so we were on number 3. Are we okay with what's negative in front? Do we know what theta is equal to? Yeah, theta is still... So you have 1 plus root 2 over 2 over 2. Negative out in front. Remember, 1 can be 2 over 2. So 2 plus root 2 all over 2, and then times 1/2. Just like the last one. So can I skip a step and just go negative square root 2 plus root 2 all over 2? We're okay with that, or did I lose you?
I couldn't see what is
It was 1 plus the cosine of 7 pi over 4 is root 2 over 2. 1 becomes 2 over 2, though, so that I have common denominators.
I couldn't really see it.
Okay. It was a 1, and then I wrote over it. So.
Wouldn't the cosine theta though be negative?
7 pi over 4 is in the 4th quadrant. Cosine is positive. Yeah, because the theta over 2, the 7 pi over 8 being 2nd quadrant, that determines the sign out in front. But theta itself is actually 7 pi over 4. Theta is what we use for. Okay. All right. Questions on that one?
So first row, 10 pi to 3 is 7 pi over 8. Is theta.
So just because of how the question was written, it's cosine of 7 pi over 8, and our formulas are all for like cosine of theta over 2. So theta over 2 is 7 pi over 8. All right, let's try the tangent one. You know the tangent of 7 pi over 4 is negative 1. Okay. All right, guys, just to practice the positive negative one more time, I'm going to use the formula that has the plus or minus in it for tangent, okay? So 7 pi over 8 we know is in the 2nd quadrant. Okay, quadrant 2 is tangent, positive or negative there? Negative, yes. Okay. So I have negative square root 1 minus cosine theta over 1 plus cosine theta. What is theta? Seventh, it's still 7 pi over 4. We are on the same angle there. So we'll have negative out in front, and then it's going to be 1 minus, what's the cosine of 7 pi over 4? Over 1 plus root 2 over 2. And then it's just a lot of simplifying. Okay, I'm going to jump to this step, see if you're okay with it. You're not going to have to rationalize when it's a square root under another square root. Okay. Because it's pretty ugly to do that. All right. Questions? give you a minute for that to sink in.
You don't need to simplify process.
I won't make you rationalize when it's a radical under a radical. All right, are you ready for number 5? The setup is a little different on this one. Are we talking about a unit circle angle on this one? Now, I tell you sine of theta is equal to 5/13. And then I tell you where theta is. Then we have to think about cosine of theta over 2. Okay, guys? So I'm going to draw a picture first. So what quadrant is theta itself in? 2. So I'm going to draw, and this is for theta. Sine is 5/13, -12. Okay. Theta, that's what we're going to use for the value within the formula, but we still have to figure out what quadrant theta over 2 is in, so that we can determine the plus or the minus in front, okay? So if you look at this right here, pi over 2 is less than theta is less than 5. I want to know about theta over 2, though, not just theta. So if I divide that theta by 2, what do I need to do with, yes. So divide by 2 times. So I get pi over 4 is less than theta over 2 is less than pi over 2.
First one.
Yes, so this is first quadrant. Okay. So is cosine positive or negative in the first quadrant? Positive. So I pick the plus. Then I have my formula. What is it for cosine? One plus cosine theta over 2. Okay. So 1 plus, what is the cosine of theta? We're back to just theta now. -12/13. So I'm going to write 1 minus 12/13 all over 2. So think of your 1 as 13/13. So I really have 1/13 times 1/2. With me on the simplifying, divided by 2, that's the same as multiplying by half. So I've got the square root of 1/26. That I can rationalize, right? So, root 26/26, that is your final answer. Alright? You want another one of those? Textiles? What is this? Alright. Alright, you guys try this one.
Hey, hey, this is your turn. You don't need any discussion. Well, I said we might get one of those today. Oh, that's not
Think about your steps here. Because I see some of you still, I don't know if it's like a comfort thing, you like your calculators out. No, use them, okay? That tells you plus or minus.
You guys get new comments?
That is true.
The worst of getting an answer is a lot of mental
I have quadrant of okay? And that would be about the
You're not going to give me a
Yeah. Okay.
I don't think that's. I'll take a look at spending it that way, dude.
I don't know that.
No, because I still thought there's a reason
I got this guy over
Okay, let's look at it. All right, guys, that's your triangle for the actual theta, correct? All right, and then you end up with that for theta over 2. So what quadrant is this guy in?
4.
Second.
Divided by 2. You guys divide everything by 2. Why?
Okay, theta, yes, theta is in the 4th quadrant. You need that.
Yeah.
Theta over 2 is in the 2nd quadrant. You also need that. You need both. This is
What happens in the second quadrant?
It's in the second quadrant.
Okay, so sine in the 2nd quadrant, is that positive or negative?
If it's like pi over 2 less than theta less than pi.
Okay, that's in the 2nd quadrant for theta.
Yeah.
Where does that put theta over 2 then? Like you have to. Yeah.
Okay, so how about quadrant 1?
If it's in quadrant 1 and you divide it by 2, it's still in quadrant 1.
So
Think about your angles. If it's between 0 and 90 degrees, if you cut it in half, it's still going to be
So
between
it's
0 and
always going to be quadrant 1 or 2.
Unless I give you something weird and say it's from like
Then you're going to be.
4 pi to.
Oh, yeah,
Dude, who does that? I feel like that's a question. Wait, what was he said again? 4 pi?
Write this down.
You're fine. All right, so are we okay understanding there are 2 quadrants we have to think about with this? Okay, the 2nd quadrant one, all that tells me about is if I pick plus or minus in front. So, sine in the 2nd quadrant, positive or negative? Positive. So, I have 1 minus, what's the cosine of theta? That's 5 over 5.
Last test.
What?
So it's in the real world, you'll always be able to work together. If you each get 1 question for the test, we have to answer one, and our grade is based off that.
So should I let other teachers go for that grade?
Yeah.
What if they don't want to? You realize it's not a group effort on the SAT or like, okay, what about on the GRE or the LSAT or the MCAT?
Yeah, but that's just showing.
But what if you have relied on your partners? Okay, so if you're a doctor someday, do I want you to roll and do 2 surgeries? No.
That's all.
All right, guys, questions on this one?
If you get something a while that knows your body.
Okay.